So welcome, welcome, welcome. It is, I'm just going to say for the record, Wednesday, April 28th. Yes, it's still Wednesday, April 28th, and this is still JCC Association's Professional Conference 2021. But this is something new. This is the Excellence Showcase, and I'm really thrilled to help facilitate the next half hour with you all. And really grateful that you picked this room because you have a real treat in front of you. I'm Randy Luderman. I'm the Vice President of Development and Arts and Culture at JCC Association of North America, and I am extremely happy to be joined by three fantastic JCC colleagues from the JCC in Albuquerque. And before I turn the floor over to them, I just want to point out that this session is being recorded, and we understand some people may not want to be on camera, and if you need to, you can certainly turn off your camera, but we're hopeful as many of you as possible will stay visible so we can really feel like we're together, even though we're not yet quite together. We've had quite a bit of bonding in the last few days. So join me in welcoming our colleagues from Albuquerque. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Phyllis, will you kick us off?
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm really honored because I know how tough it was for Randy and Isabel to select which amazing programs and initiatives would be highlighted. And so we're pretty tickled about being here. And, you know, the word that keeps coming up for me in this conference is delicious, because like ideas and resources exchanging are yummy and delicious. So let us move in. I will introduce you to my colleagues, Maya Seiler and Jill Petrosnik as well. They work very closely with me, and the three of us are like the Three Musketeers. We're pretty joined together, and you know, this NoshFest you'll see was quite an endeavor and could not have been done with at least the three of us, and then also the 40 volunteers. But since we just have 30 minutes, we're going to make our presentation brief, and we want to maximize the value for you. So please feel free to, you know, put your ideas and questions in the chat. We're really looking forward to a fantastic discussion. But first, to get you in the mood, we're going to share a quickie film that we use to promote the fest. And so just sit back, let your mouths water and your minds wander at pre-pandemic times when we could all get together in big groups. Thank you. And you can see there was lots going on that day, lots of food, but lots of other stuff. We're going to start our presentation now. Welcome to Albuquerque NoshFest. I'm Phyllis Wolf, Chief Programs Officer of the JCC of Greater Albuquerque, which has been my home. I'm in my 16th year. And this is an initiative that we started in 2018. We chose the month of January because we researched a sort of a dry month of festivals in Albuquerque and our state, and January was it. Plus, the prices at venues are less expensive when you go off season. So the initiative Started obviously with a brand, and we decided this brand was a JCC family event where everyone was welcome, and Albuquerque's only Jewish food festival. So our goals were pretty straightforward. It was to produce an afternoon festival which highlighted traditional and creative takes on Jewish and Israeli food, prepared by chefs from across the city, a celebration of Jewish and Israeli culture, which the whole community could partake in, and having a bunch of food vendors with yummy samples that everybody could taste and try, and particularly those who yearned for, latkes and rugula and matzo ball soup because they come from Chicago, New York, LA, et cetera, and those who've never had it, because you'll find out that Jews are not so plentiful here in Albuquerque. Importantly, in order to keep a whole afternoon going and to avoid having, people overstuffing themselves without anything to do, we provided lots of entertainment and dancing, and our sponsors had booths. We had community partners, retailers. It was January and the football playoffs were going on. So we didn't want the husbands or whoever's watching football staying home and feeling like they were going to miss something. So we had a big screen TV provided by our electronics partner, and people could wander over there and catch the latest play, etc. We also importantly had a really wonderful kids area where, folks could drop their kids if they wanted, or they could take a time out and play with their kids. But that was a selling point as well, to encourage families to come and know that their kids wouldn't be bored. And then a couple of other things we did. We had a premier raffle where we partnered with a local travel agent who donated 2 round-trip tickets to New York City and 3 nights at a hotel. And then we worked with a couple of different delis in New York to provide a gift certificate. I think we ended up with 2nd Street Deli, if I'm remembering New York, where I'm from. You might be able to tell. And when I talk about New York and food, my New York accent comes out. Anyway, so lots of opportunities. The biggest, as I hinted at, is Albuquerque is a relatively small city, 750,000, 10,000-ish Jews. No Jewish delis currently. Several have tried and just can't quite make it because there just aren't enough of us here. So to have an event that was really dedicated to Jewish food and celebrating our culture, that's not specifically associated with a holiday, but is really, that makes it more secular in and of itself. And we felt that this, was a huge unmatched opportunity in New Mexico, filling a void. Like every big event, we had our challenges handed to us, and we had to sort of really drill down to see what, as we present to you, what were some of those for us. I think the biggest is really recruiting food purveyors when so few are Jewish, working with them to be brave and try creative ideas with Jewish favorites. One of my favorites was a sushi restaurant that had a spicy everything tuna bite, and an Italian restaurant that had latkes with hand-carved pastrami and aioli mayo on it, so it was really fun. But more than the food, again, we really wanted to make this also just a celebration of Jewish culture and Israeli culture. So we had so many more reasons for people to come than just food. And of course, there are a lot of expenses when you put on an event like this. We used an outside venue because, as large as our JCC is, we have no capacity for parking, et cetera, for 1,800 people, which was what we achieved. So we're getting, sponsors and donors to be excited about the event was very, very important, and also to engage all sectors of the Jewish community. Logistics, we know about those. So everything from setting up the venue, which we started on Friday afternoon, don't tell your rabbis, and culminating with the event opening up at noon on Sunday. We had, 20 food vendors, half a dozen sponsors, half a dozen retailers, 10 info booths. All of them needed to be checked in a very friendly, warm manner and efficient. Managing lines, because when there's food, people show up early. It's like a garage sale. They're there at 7 in the morning. And so we encourage people to buy their tickets in advance. We kept them a low price because we really wanted to maximize attendance, and also have them spend money on food and the retailers that were there and so forth, and buy some raffle tickets too. One of our challenges was counting food tickets. Like, we literally shopped around for how the various vendors would collect their food tickets, and then how they would bring them at the end of the day. And we would agree on, because each of those tickets was $1. Was it 2001 or was it 1983? And every penny matters. So, just all that kind of stuff. The other thing I'll mention is we recruited 40 staff and volunteers, primarily volunteers, and really making them feel like an integral, valuable part, giving them meaningful assignments, one of which was just walking the various lines of vendors. Some were more popular than others, and encouraging people to, hey, that line is pretty short, go there, things like that. Impacts. The greatest impact is absolutely the positive visibility of our JCC as a leader in the Jewish and general community. And we started that visibility early on with an extensive marketing campaign, which we'll be getting into, but it included billboards, TV segments, news articles, social media, flyers, posters, emails, all of the usual suspects. And as we all know, and we'll be getting into in a bit, marketing is just more. So people get hit, and finally they go, oh, that's coming up this weekend. The gathering of affiliated and non-affiliated Jews, and with all the non-Jews in our city, was a huge treat to see that interplay and mingling of people from across the city. It was great to involve all of the Jewish organizations here, from Hadassah and Sisterhoods to the Holocaust Museum, Federation, Jewish Historical Society, youth groups as well. All happily participating, well, fighting over, who was going to sell the rugelach. But other than that, it was pretty low key. And then, of course, just the ruach, the excitement of our Jewish community coming together, people who hadn't seen each other in years, and the pride of highlighting the richness of the Jewish culture to the greater community. How can you all replicate this out in the field? Well, obviously, we're not, any of us, going to be having a huge event like this inside in the foreseeable future, but we'll share with you some ideas that we're already kicking around. The event, we believe, can really work well in a city of any size, but it was really kind of neat doing it in a smaller city with a smaller Jewish population, because it gave us a chance to shine. by the way, we have, boy, do we have templates. We have every aspect of this event, having done it 3 times, nailed down. The last time we produced it was in January of 2020. So we're maybe just slightly rusty, but boy, it's like getting back on a bike as we were getting this together. We like, oh yeah, do you remember when that happened? Anyway, so we will share our contact information. We have every possible form, letter, from even asking volunteers what they'd like to do to selecting the venue and putting together this marketing campaign. The message is always where you start. Albuquerque's only Jewish food festival is back, tickets on sale. And we started a persistent campaign of weekly e-blasts, highlighting the various event components that, as I mentioned, included the premier raffle, kids zone, football zone, all the various food and retail vendors, favorite restaurants. Oh, I want to see what Savoy is going to do Jewish, etc. And then we also emphasized, because year after year, of course, we kept continually improving, and we wanted to let people know, oh, remember that first year where you couldn't get in because we got that taken care of. We have express check-in, we have a big spacious venue, lots of parking, and so forth. And of course, just to kind of round out, I'm sure all of us know about these things, but just to put them in one place for you, lobby presence. This premier raffle was a fundraiser for us. I believe we sold 3 tickets for $25, and we had some people who would buy $250, $500, because they figure if they get 2 free tickets to New York, that's worth it. But we had a big tumbler in the lobby, and that was an attraction where people could buy their ticket and drop it in, and their kid could twirl it and see where their ticket was landing. Flyers, posters, websites, abqnoshfest.com. We developed a dedicated site where people could go for event info, ticket sales, sponsor recognition, and all of that. And then electronic boards throughout the campus, both out on our busy street, on our electronic marquee, as well as receiving $10,000 in comped billboards and strategic spots in the city. And this is the postcard that we mailed out to about 2,500 households. Of course, food is the star of the day. So we worked hard to find really tantalizing pictures. And, of course, we mentioned our sponsors and the various activities that would be available. Our Kugel Cook-Off was a way to engage amateur chefs. We had a panel of judges, which the first year included Joan Nathan, who was our Nosh Talk queen. That was really cool. We had close to 20 entries. One year we even did challah. So it doesn't have to be kugel, but kugel is great because there's so many variations: sweet, savory, spicy, you name it. And of course, the premier raffle. So we are so excited to open this up and hear your questions and comments. Maya's going to stick our info in the chat. And thanks for being here. And sorry I couldn't hand out, little samples of rugula and kugel to you, but.
Hey, Phyllis.
Well,
Phyllis,
there was one question in the chat that came up since I don't guard all of our timesheets, was how much staff time was committed in the months leading up to the event.
Oh God. Oh God. I'm sorry. I have countless, really countless. It's definitely a large investment. And I know some JCCs do factor that into your budgets. We're fortunate in that our CEO just, if you know, our JCC is going to put on an event, then it becomes an all hands on deck, and it's just, you know, kind of the price of doing business.
Phyllis, just to follow up that question and
Yeah.
to clarify for a quick second,
Yeah.
when we say
Yeah.
countless, I think that's like a big wide open response. And so what I'd like to ask you is,
Sure.
just to put it in context,
Mhm.
this kind of overarching festival in your community, how many of these kinds of events might you do in a year?
Oh, one.
Okay.
I mean,
So
one of this size, you know,
right. So
and
I just want to contextualize because people are coming from lots of different communities, and you know, most of us end up leaning into the run up to an event. And when you're in a smaller community and it's your one critical piece,
Yeah.
I would imagine it's an all hands on deck moment. So I don't want people to think like countless. Count me out, because I think this
no.
can be done in your communities.
So what I'll say is, and thank you for keeping me honest here, Randy, but what I'll say is the three of us, you know, worked full time on it for a solid month, I would say. As far as the rest of the staff, it was pretty much just a day of their time. And we even did that in shifts. You know, a few were there for 8 hours because we got there at 7 or 8 in the morning to set up, but most people just had like 2-hour shifts. So it wasn't unmanageable. And we always try to use our exempt staff more than our non-exempt staff.
I want to elevate a question. Deb Bobro, you had a question that you put in the chat, which was, did you have any security concerns? And I wanted to ask you to address that.
Yes, that is such a great question. One of the things that made our venue attractive to us is it's a resort and a casino on Indian land, on Native American land. And so it exempted us from certain issues. They have the best security, probably even better than the Albuquerque Police Department. So that is one huge thing. In addition to that, we have several off-duty policemen or retired policemen that work for us, and we have a security director. So we had walkthroughs, and we had some, you know, some of our own security available, particularly at portals of entry and so forth.
Very good.
Can I answer a couple of questions that were in the chat?
Yes, absolutely.
So quick answer. Somebody asked about the Kugel and health code issues. Again, partially because we hosted on Pueblo land, we kind of were able to skirt around having to go through the health department, which was a great gift after the first year. And as far as the kugels, people prepared their kugels at home. But the only people eating the kugels were the judges that we had present. We didn't, you know, we weren't passing it out for people to generally take. I'm hoping that answers that question for Neil.
And one thing to add to that is our venue provided a hot box, so things could be kept warm.
Right. Carla from Raleigh asked, did that vacuum diminish as you got better at planning the events? Yes. I will tell you, I jumped on as the coordinator after the first year. Phyllis was out of the country for the first one. I was there kind of as an attendee and a volunteer. It definitely got easier by year 3. We had a lot, we were way more intuitive to the event, to what needed to happen, to the things that we already knew that we needed to adjust. And it really, really did make number 3 an exemplary program. Time adds to it, as we all know in our jobs. The more you do it, the easier it gets most of the time.
And there's also so many areas to improve upon from year to year. We still, you know, you're always learning and you're always challenging your creative juices to see how to make it more exciting, how to make it easier for people, more accessible, all that kind of stuff.
So we've seen a lot of questions in the chat. I was going to see if anybody here had questions they wanted to ask.
I have a question.
Sorry, Randy.
My question is, when you talk about the size of the Jewish community in Albuquerque and how this is an opportunity to share Jewish and Israeli culture and really engage broadly, whether you were able to assess from the data of people who participated, if you really made an opening and invited different kinds of people to experience your JCC through this program.
Yeah, I would say, thank you. That is such a great question. There were so many people who came. So again, I'm talking about 1,800. Our own JCC is 80% non-Jewish. So, I mean, we had people from our JCC that didn't know as much about Judaism as they found out at the, but also, you know, it was definitely intergenerational, interracial, non-gender binary. I mean, you know, everybody, I think, felt very welcome.
Very nice.
We have a couple of questions about pricing within the chat. I'll just.
Oh, I was just
I see that, but just in case people aren't following within the chat, for entry fee, we did $6.50 in advance, $8 at the door. Kids under 10 were free. We encouraged people to purchase their tickets in advance so that they could be scanned in, because we were doing, you know, electronic tickets. The food tickets were sold separately. They were $1 to one ticket. Someone is asking if we got a percentage of those sales. And Jill, I think you'll remember what that percentage was.
Of which one? I'm sorry. Phyllis might.
What percentage of food ticket sales did we get from the vendors?
Yeah, so we started out with 10%, but we realized that that was very little. If somebody made, you know, $1,000, that was $100 for us. So we did not have the chance, but we were going to raise it to 15%, which wouldn't have been a deal breaker. But again, we created this forum for restaurants and caterers to showcase what they do and to increase their own visibility. So it felt like a fair exchange.
Thank you. I'm going to actually, I'm going to have to stop us here because we're conscious of our time, and there's another JCC Excellence Showcase that begins at 4:30. But I want to thank everybody. I want to thank in particular Maya, Jill, and Phyllis, and the community of ABQ for coming up with this wonderful idea and for sharing it the way you have. Post-conference, we're going to share every program that was highlighted through an Excellence Showcase will be shared. And frankly, we have the resources of all the people who applied that we were unable to share. So you will have a big a selection of things to look at. And for me, the most inspiring piece of this is that you created an opportunity to share more about who your community was, but also to open the door to the extended community. And you know, 80% of your JCC's constituency is not Jewish. You created an event that was the best, most joyous ambassadorship for this moment in time. And I think that's terrific. Something to think about as you head off to your next Excellence Showcase is, if this is interesting to you, which pieces could you do in a hybrid fashion and what that conversation might look like. We're going to continue to have those conversations as we move forward as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you'll have an opportunity to check again at another JCC Excellence Showcase. And at the end of the day, to pop into J Cafe, where we're going to have a little digital adventure, try to say hello to each other.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.